Hi guys, well let's get off of this one. Usual thing, can you hear me alright? I kind of check it, but you know, just make sure you can hear me. Just drop something in the comments. Come on Jeremy, you're there. Say you can hear me. Well, that looks a bit psycho, didn't it? Okay, you can see a bit cash today. Just been away on holiday, so been away for a week. I don't think I've done one of these for a couple of weeks, so bit of an update. I can't tell you everything. Appy's probably sitting there laughing. I'm going to tell you some things, but putting it bluntly, a lot is going on, right? A lot, and yeah, I've got to be careful what I say because Appy's on the chat, and I'm not gonna blow sunshine up your bum. Only maybe a little bit, but everyone knows that this project, it relies on engineers, and I'm very lucky. Initially, I had Rob Cranley, who's absolutely wonderful, and Edu, who did a couple of projects for me. And with the monitor, one of the people that transformed this project was Byron. Sorry, my brain's I'm getting old. It was Byron, because he kind of sent me in a direction, because I kind of had these things I wanted to do, and I got all these silly ideas in my head, the things I want to do. How am I going to do this? Because Rob's really busy, and it was very hard to get Rob. And then I found, you know the story, I found Byron, and he sent me down this track, which was brilliant. But then, as you all know, I got to meet Appy. Now, Appy, again, I'm not going to talk too much about what we're working on because I don't want to spoil the surprise, but there's some serious stuff going on. And this monitor is going to be absolutely stonking. As I probably mentioned previously, that I'm taking the whole thing about the panel. Forget the panel, okay? I know people say that's stupid, but don't confuse the panel with the project, because the project is about making a monitor that's flexible, modular, can do things, can do more than most panels can do, especially for the retro community. And one of the things you can see it's doing here, it's running EGA, as you probably saw in the title. It's running my new little toy, right? That beast, right? Which is a Toshiba T3200, which I purchased recently. The reason for this was because Appy's board, which you've already seen because you've seen the CGA stuff already. Well, in fact, let me just a quick reminder so you can see the board. There you go. So that little tiny little board is Appy's, and the one underneath it is Byron's and the GBS 8200. Okay. Yes, we're still in prototype phase, obviously. But that meant that we can have, well, so we got CGA and EGA, which is really big deal. But also, if you've got a Commodore 128, you can use the 8-column mode with this. We're really doing, well, the royal we. Appy's actually doing some seriously good things. Already it works great, okay? But one of the reasons for buying that laptop was so that I could, I trusted him to do it, obviously, but I wanted to be able to show it. So, if people are wondering, I've turned the sound off. Okay, because I want to be able to show people this thing coming out of there and obviously working correctly as you'd expect with an EGA machine. So I've got now an EGA machine, as you know. I've got a CGA machine. VGA is obviously not a problem. Standard monitor, the standard input would handle that, but those two are quite important. Now that's not that we can cover everything. We're working on trying to cover all the inputs you can do. It may be that some of them, obviously MDA and a couple of other bits and pieces, but they may come a bit later on. But CGA, EGA, obviously, and with all the others, it's quite important. So I'm really pleased with this. Now, unfortunately, the lines have gone. Happy, the lines have gone. Anyway, it had lines on it, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But can you see the? I've switched it back to the built-in panel, which has got one of these beautiful orange plasma displays. Now, if any of you don't, I'm going to be doing a video on this T3200. It's an absolute beast of a 286 machine. But it's got a couple of problems, because when I bought it, it was not working. It was solder's not working. So I realised that, but the display was obviously working. And I got it, and I couldn't get the floppy disk to work. And I had no idea what it was. And then I went through all the workshop manuals. I opened it all up, and you can see in the settings that it was set for 720 disk. Right, yeah. Now that's turned off because I've switched to here. Let's put it back. And so I had to create. It's actually got instead of a 1.44 drive, which is a pain in the butt, it's got 720 drive in it. Which is fine, but the hard drive don't work either. So, and it also, the CMOS battery's buggered. But to get to the hard drive and the drives, etc., you have to take the whole top apart, the panel off, everything. It's a nightmare. So I won't be doing that before. I'm going to do a video all about it, explain it, then I'll do a follow-up once I've rebuilt the thing. But it's an absolute beast. It was so heavy. It's 9 kilos, which is seriously heavy. But yeah, and it hasn't got batteries either, so it's quite something. Yeah, that's the new toy. But it basically, the idea is it's proving that this works. So yeah. Let me switch that. There you go. Here comes the game. I'm not going to play it. I've become anytime now reading from. It's reading for. I'm sorry, it's reading from floppy disk. I've had to install the things onto floppy disk, but as you can see, it's coming up beautifully. What I have got is I've got this test. I'm just going to reboot it, and so you can see I'll run a couple of tests on it. But it's really, it's got an old computer smell as well. Probably a couple of dodgy caps or something. But no, it's really cool. And I have to say, that's one of the nicest keyboards I've ever used. I don't know if you can hear it from there, but it's just amazing. Right, let me get this onto the diagnostic. Here we go. That's good, isn't it? Wait for it. Here we go. Now, this is where Appy's right now. Let me show you something. Appy's going to like this. Some of you may or may not know about EGA and CGA. I can't explain it, but it's to do with brightness, and you can tell by switching it, so you get the brown or yellow. And he's got a switch on his board, so watch that there. In fact, let's get this a bit closer. Right, if you watch these browns, okay, see the change? So basically you can switch it if you want to activate that colour thing. He did explain to me what it's to do with intensities, but it actually does that in the board, which is quite nice. So the actual board is really good. Now, what we're doing, again, I'm going to keep a lot of this to us. There's some seriously fundamental changes being made. So, but one of the things I will tell you about is that we're having a breakout board, and it's having this CGA EGA put onto it, and a whole lot of clever bits and pieces that we're putting on there. The reason I'm not telling you everything is because There's some testing we're doing to see if we can actually do it, or again, see if Appy can do it. And so there's, until we've got that nailed, so we know. I don't really want to talk about it, but I do think this is going to be a really, really good monitor. He ain't gonna be cheap. It's not overly expensive. It's not gonna be ridiculous. I promise you, it's not gonna be ridiculously expensive. But it's not your £150 monitor. It's just not. Right? It's just not. But again, it's let's press. Yeah. See. Display. There we go. Changing colours. Now, that one is what we're coming to. There is one specific mode that we don't support yet. We're going to sort that out later, which is 350 lines. That's why I've put is up to 80 characters and 200 lines. So anything that runs like that, up to that, it's fine. The 350, we've got to sort that out. That's one of the things we're here, Happy. So he hasn't got that to play with, so he's going to sort that out later on. But there's other stuff going on. Busy designing monitor internals. Yeah. I look. I'm not sure how much I'm going to talk about. Now, some of you may know I'm doing a show on Saturday, Greenford, just outside London. If you can get there, brilliant. Come along, right? Because it would be definitely be worthwhile. Put that back on there. Definitely be worthwhile. And because I'll be doing a talk in the morning, but I'm apparently I got it down as first talk, which probably means they'll probably overrun and I'll be late and they'll miss me talking. So, but probably, hopefully not. Also, if you're a Patreon backer, I did a talk at Swag, which I didn't get. Everyone else has got recorded except mine, but Dave managed to record it on his phone. So that's on my Patreon page. Now I'm going to put that into a video and release that. But at the moment it's only viewable on Patreons. Let's just put that one up on the screen again. I set it to OPL because I haven't got one in there. Yeah, so now if you look at that screen, now what I want to do is see if I can change screen. I'm going to come on to questions soon because again, this might not be a particularly long session, but what I want to do is to chat. Here we go. Right, so the interesting thing with this, what you're looking at now, this is the GBS control software. So basically, in that on our board is right. So basically, this is the HDMI version. Funnily enough, anyway, this board here, which is Byron's, this is the first version of Byron's board. But if you can see that, that's the GBS. That's the actual the microcontroller, and it's got a web server on it. And what you can see, hang on, what you can see here is the website, and what I've done is I pointed this to my hub, my router, and so now I can access it. I've been doing it actually from my tablet, but when it has to set up its own Wi-Fi access point, it works, but it's a little bit finicky. So I think the best thing to do is to set up at home, and then you just give it your own Wi-Fi, and then you can just log into it, and then you can play with it. So you've probably seen this before. But like if I go to here, okay, and then if you watch the screen, did it move? Yeah, it's moving. You can see it's moving. See it moving a little bit at a time. So basically, what this is doing is allowing you to control the firmware, and you do it on here, and you set profiles, and you save a profile. But there's a ton of bits and pieces in here. You've even got things like scan lines. So for people who want scan lines, there you go. Turn on scan lines. So it's got an awful lot of features in it. and I think it's going to be. I don't want to use the word game changer, but I think it's going to liven up the market, because this monitor is going to have now. There's going to be a basic version, and then let's call it the plus version. And the plus version is going to have all the extra bits. So it's going to have the SCART input, RGB SCART input, component input that also can do non-interlace. It's also going to have obviously CGA, EGA, and maybe who knows what else is going to come down the road. But it's going to be in a. I can't tell you too much because until I get certain bits, then I'm going to show you. So in a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of weeks, I don't want to push Happy because he's working himself too hard, and I don't want him doing that. So, but once I've got, there's a couple of components I'm waiting for. Once I've got them, I'll be doing a version 3 prototype. So it's going to go for a redesign. It's not going to be massive changes, all right? It's not going to be massive changes, but it is going to go for a redesign. So, for example, the bezel will be separate from the lower bit. The lower bit will stick out. There's going to be lots of things, improvements. And since I've made this and realised that actually it's great, but it needs lots of little tweaks and bits and pieces doing. So we're going to be a V3 prototype with some new internals, and they're going to be kind of special, and it's all about signals, making sure everything is really nice signals, and really cleaning everything up and just making sure we give the input the best chance of getting to the panel as perfect as we can possibly do that. And then you have your choice of panels to pop in different kind of panels, which, as I said, once the Kickstarter's done, I'll go off and get some other panels. But I still really like this panel. Personally, I think it's fantastic. So this will stay in the selection, but there may be the much brighter panels that we'll get. Maybe, you know, who knows? It potentially may be an OLED, but I'm not sure about that yet because just can't get them. Anyway, let's see if there's any questions. We can hear, see you in Greenford. Yes, I remember. So does my back. Hi Paul, happy. How you doing? Good morning as usual. Busy designing. Love your renders. Can you make an input for Silicon Graphics 9 computers? They all use 13-watt connectors. Happy's already jumped on that, and they give him the pin out. Look, you know, the whole point of this is we want to support retro computers, but we can't do everything, and we can't do it all at once. So one of the things with the whole RMC thing that cropped up, I stopped, set up, and then of course I met Appy. So then as soon as I met Appy, it was like, oh Christ, we can do some really, really good stuff. Okay, so we I'm in no rush to get this thing out. What I want to do right now is we want to make the best internals and the best product we can make, and make it look as good as possible. We can't please everyone with looks, but things like a different input. If it's a normal kind of signal and Appy can mess with it, give Appy the details, right? Seriously, if you want it supported, give Appy the details, give him access to the hardware maybe at a predetermined time, not now, a little bit further down the road, but because he loves all this stuff, and I'm pretty confident that, you know, especially once the Kickstarter. Now I don't want to overload him with more work, but once the Kickstarter happens, and then we can look into this other stuff, and, you know, maybe add it in, or add it in as a separate board, because we're going to have different boards. So it's if you know my cases, I try to allow for everything, every kind of opportunity, and the same thing with the monitors. But there's only so much we can do initially, but then hopefully it'll build on over time. But I think having what we've got, the CGA and EGA, is a big deal. I really do think so. Yeah, I mean, look, if we can I just need an excuse to buy silicon graphics. But I've spent too much lately. I spent way too much. Right, let's get off of this. Let's go back into, is it this one? Yeah, there we go. I spent way too much money on computers at the moment, so I'm trying to cut back a little bit. But if someone says silicon graphics, no, because the same connectors and next station color. Yeah, I mean, look, I've seen the connectors, so I know what you mean. I suppose it's down to the frequencies and so on. I can't. I don't want to comment on that because I'm not the engineer. Well, I do all the the metal. I do the metalwork and the plastics. And I do that, but I don't do the electronics. So that's why I have clever people help me. I have the service manuals. It might have details about how it works. Just email me what you'd like. I will reply and find out what you need. I have a next dimension. Jammy Git. I want my money. But again, I got too much. Right. Questions. Anyone got any questions? Not a huge amount of people watching tonight, so shouldn't be a problem getting your questions answered. Come on, give me. While you think of a question, I'm going to be doing. As some of you know, I'm potentially going full time. It's still a bit up in the air at the moment. Potentially going full time on this, which is not an ideal scenario, but that's potentially the plan. And what that means is it will give me more time. So what I am planning on doing now is this: that my patrons, obviously, one of the things I ask the question is, what do you want? And most of what they want is more videos. And so I've got so much kit, right? So many different computers. So I thought, well, any good excuse to buy them and also to make a video on them is I'll use the video to promote the monitors. Plugged in. And you'll see the monitors working all the time, and I show the connections and stuff. But talk about the monitor, the products. So it'll be showing the products, etc. Just happen to be using my monitor. There'll be an advert on there sponsored by Checkmate, and at the back I'll put some interesting stuff at the back of the video if people want to watch that. Making noise. So I'm going to probably do one a week, and fingers crossed. And but once we've got this stuff ready, and these monitors and these bits that I'm not telling you about done, you will probably be first to know. But we need to. So I want to see them. We want to check and make sure everything's working. Make sure we've got everything how we think the best way of doing it. Once we've got that going, then we'll tell you all about it. But I'll also do the promotions. Oh, yeah, the screen's come up. And so the videos will be a good way of giving my patrons and my backers some content. Sort of done in the usual way I do things. A bit of history, what I think of them, how they fit in, and as an Amiga owner. And I'll be doing lots of opposite. Appy, I think, will be looking forward to the 128 video, which I'll obviously be doing a special one with that. But also things like that Toshiba laptop, which is hard to see actually, but it is quite an amazing thing. Although, funny enough, I quite like Little Amstrad as well. I mean, it's so I've got so much stuff here that I just really like. So I want to make my patrons happy, and because they kind of tipped off a bit. And one of the things I'm trying to think of ways of making it worthwhile being a Patreon within the rules, and so there's benefit there. I'm trying to, because what I have to do is I have to build my Patreons up. I have to have that is useful at the moment, but I need to kind of try. If I'm doing full time, I need to build that up a bit to for obvious reasons. I need to build that up a bit because the sales of the cases make so much, but running it costs a lot. So I can't run a business just on the cases. So I'm hoping with the cases, the monitor, etc., and get the patrons, and then everything will be hunky dory. So, but there'll be more on that later on. So let's answer this question. There's a question here. Shut up, Happy. I didn't want to tell anyone about that. Anyway, right. So I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to talk about it at the moment because I want to be able to go on to it properly. But yes, so question about the Atari ST. No problem with RGB connection. Okay, Atari ST. So there is a problem with my STFM. Okay, using the we're looking into this, but there is a problem with the Atari ST. But it seems to be the STE works because I took it to one of the shows. Mine didn't work, and another STFM actually didn't work. But a guy had an STE and it plugged in. It worked on the SCART input. The composite always works, and the VGA works. They work fine. VGA and the composite are fine. It was just the RGB SCART. Seems to have a problem with the STFM. Now that could be mine. It might be something like a cap, or I honestly don't know. It will probably be one of those things. I'll give it to Appy, let him test it. There's something weird going on, but a number of people have said there's potential issues with the STFM on the video circuitry. This is not a criticism. This is a maybe it is because Byron has subtle problems with his STFM. And not with the STE. And having said my STFM, if I plug the SCART into my big TV, it works fine, but it drops sync once a second. So there's obviously something going on, but my TV's latched onto it better. So there's something we've got to look into there. I will make all that clear, the bits that work, bits that don't. I'll make all that clear before the Kickstarter. Hopefully we'll have cured it. But most everything else we've plugged into it all seems to work in SCART. So the Amigas, we had a Sam Coupe plugged into it. My Dreamcast works okay. We've had a Sega Saturn plugged into it, and that worked alright. My BBC Micro works okay. So it's all. Shut up, Happy. Leave Ataris alone. What about the weight of the monitor likely to be any more on an Amiga keyboard? The weight of the monitor is actually not too bad. It's lighter than a CRT, but it's not light. It's got a great big metal structure inside it. Now, I may drop the internal structure down to a 1mm instead of a 1.2 because I think 1.2 might be overkill. So that I may drop that down. But we'll see about that. But the weight, it's not light. I suppose I could weigh it. It probably makes sense. But my gut feeling is about 6 kilos, 5-6 kilos, something like that. But I can weigh it. Any more on the Amiga keyboard? Well, so many people are doing keyboards. I'm just keeping out of it. I got enough to do. Fine. Do you have any more software projects planned? Love our Amiga XE or Python. Yeah. I have got things I'm working on. Well, they're actually on hold, but there is something. I've got a roadmap, which I'm not talking about because what's the point? Until I can actually show something's actually happening. So I'm always mostly about hardware. But I think the as you said the AmiKit Jan did a fantastic job with AmiKit, and also I talked. I got Dimitri to do this host run thing so that Amiberry can talk to the Linux backend, and apparently they use it in the Amiga Mini. Yeah, you're welcome. Which is quite funny. Yeah, so I bribed him into doing that for me. But no, so there's not, the software's a bit of a backseat at the moment, but you know, who knows what happens in the future. Yeah, my ST does have a problem, sadly, but it only seems to be the FM. It only seems to be the FM at the moment. I think the STE, it plugged in, it worked great, and as I said, my STFM plugs into my big TV with SCART and works fine. Apart from it kind of loses a frame every second, so it's like it's dropped and then caught. I can't explain it, but the display just goes black for a frame. So that's obviously not quite right. So there's something going on, but that does a better job of it. I think it's probably, say, dropping a frame and say it's not bothering it, whereas it's possibly, it's all screwed up, to be honest, in the our SCART. So we're having problems dealing with it. But I think it might be something that Appy could just sort out. But I'm trying not. He's got things I need him to do first, and then we can come back to it. Because the fact that it doesn't work at the moment, that doesn't mean it won't work down the road. It just means it doesn't work at the moment. I obviously want Atari fans to be able to buy the monitor, and I don't want any excuse for them not. So we can sort that out. Oh, shut up! God, do you know what? Happy, you're going to upset people, and they won't buy your monitor, and you won't get you won't get all your toys if you upset them. Right. So, any more questions? Because it's cooking in here, and again, it works, and I'm actually really pleased with it. I've got another disc actually. Let me put another disc in it. Let's show you something different. What I do want to do is sort out the bloody hard disk. See if I can sort out the monitor. Let's see if I know. See, it comes up. Look, that can't be anything serious because when I wonder if it was in the modes. Appy. When that plasma's looks like it's on a CGA or a low-res display, I'm not getting any vertical lines. I'm only getting the vertical lines when I'm in a high-res display, 80 column mode. That's interesting. It's the little things. I want to get that set up. We get the hard disk sorted out, and I want to get the battery back up, and I want to get that because it's such a cool machine. It's just a beast. It's got a handle. Right. So. Right, come on, questions, because I'm going to go and see my wife for a while, because I tend to be working all day and doing a lot of work, so any more questions? It might be a little bit bright actually, but that is such a lovely machine, I tell you. Really, I'm really pleased with it. and see my my little C120, C128, whatever. Also, probably got. Yeah, look. There's my Mister. Or you can have PC. That's pretty cool. Right, come on. Any questions? How heavy? Oh, that's already been asked. I haven't got scales up here. Alright, you want to know? Scales. I don't think this is going to. I am not 53 kilos. I do weigh a bit more than that. Yeah, that's. Well, the scales say 5 kilos. Scales say about 5 kilos, so it's not as heavy as my 1084, but it's not light. And again, as I said, I might reduce the internal metalwork from 1.2 to 1 mil. But I want it to be strong. I don't build weak crap, but there's a lot of internals. There's the panel, and there's the metal frame, and then there's the boards. So it's not going to be lightweight, but it's not heavy. What other firmware changes have been implemented? Well, funny, no, not really anything. We sorted out the. I think you already know this. We sorted out the 4.3. That's now working. So when you select 4.3, actually there's a little bar above and below, because obviously these are 5.4 panels, so it does that. But then we've got a stretch, so it will stretch it to 5.4. That's called Zoom 1 at the moment. But you know what it's like when you do this. You can't think, do you know what? Once I've already got a list, but I'm not pestering them about firmware now, because I don't think it's fair. They've done a lot of work for me. They've done all the bits I really wanted. And the rest of them are kind of, let's do it after the Kickstarter. Once I place an order, I'd say, look, okay, here's the order. Now I want this, and this. And once you've done it, I'll pay it. I think that's a fair way of doing it, because at the moment nothing's happening. So all they've done is sold half a dozen controllers. So I gave them, sent some money over to say thank you for doing the thing. They'll for dinner for a few of the developers, but it's unfair for me to push them too far at the moment. Any idea when you'll be able to share the design changes? If you mean the case design, yeah. I mean, as I'm doing it, if I do a live stream when I'm doing it, I'll show it. I've got no problem showing that. The only thing I don't want to show is, although Appy's bloody mentioned it, it's a certain thing we're putting inside, which is going to be fundamental to the project, because and it's going to help quieten everything down and make it, So, but again, I don't want to talk about it too much, because I want to get it working, make sure it's all working okay, make sure it solves the problems, and then once we're happy with it and we've got a prototype and it's all working nicely, then we can go forward and I'll tell you all about it, because obviously I want to tell people. But I'd rather it was done and dusted before we actually talk about it. So yeah, that's the design changes. Right, I am actually cooking in here. Any more questions, or I'm gonna have to go, because I'm I've got this big Mac Pro sitting here, and I've got the lights on me, and that thing kicks out. Can you see that? I'm glistening. Thoughts on the stand? Thoughts? Well, they're not selling as fast as I thought. They're being made. They're probably, I mean, it was a 10-week turnaround on them, 10 to 12-week turnaround on them. So I'm expecting another 6 weeks. Well, whatever it was, I'm expecting probably another 6 weeks. However, Barry did say to me, get in touch with them a couple of weeks. They're about to put them in for the punch. Once that's done, they can probably go off to be painted. The painting can be held up. So it might be 3 or 4 weeks, but let's say 6 weeks. Are there any left? Yes. Please buy them. No, I need to obviously promote them, but I've told people about them, and it's all up on the site. You can go and order. And I think I sold about 70 or 80 or something like that. So they still got, I made 250. So I wasn't sure how. I thought they'd probably, sell a bit quicker than that, but it's fine. They'll turn up and I'll sell them. But what it means is if they don't sell fast, I probably won't make any more. I mean, it'd be as simple as that. It's just not worth it because I don't make a lot of money out of them. With the cost of energy going up, how much power does it take? Standby mostly mode exists. Cheers for your work. Yeah, I'm making both colours. So, but I'm looking at the moment for the percentages. I think I'm going to look at what I've sold already, percentages of the colour swap, and then that'll be the percentage I'll use to paint. That's always worked pretty well for me. With the cost of energy going up, how much power does it take? Do you know, that's a really good question. I couldn't actually tell you. Not a lot. The panels don't take an awful lot of power. But having said that, if you put, for example, if you put a mister in it, yeah, one of these, because literally you can take the cover off, drop it in with my adapter, and there you go. Or if you want to stick in one of these take about a couple of 2 or 3 amps, say, each of them. So, but I think the main board's about probably an amp. The panel's probably an amp, so a couple of amps for the controller and the panel, roughly. Yeah, I mean, all that information I'll release because I'll do some tests and we'll put all that information out there. You haven't missed the boat. Just hurry up and buy one because at some point, I think what will happen is once people have got them, they start telling people. Then of course, then it will start spreading. So I'm not worried about selling because they don't cost an awful lot to make. But likewise, I don't charge an awful lot for them. So it's whether it's worth the hassle. Right. Okay. I can't think of anything to talk about, and I'm just waffling. So probably do another one next week. I'm waiting once. As I said, I'm waiting for some bits from Happy. Once I've got them, we can talk more about once I'm one of the reasons I didn't want to talk too much about EGA was because I wanted to get a machine that, even though technically the C128 is an EGA output, I wanted an EGA machine. Yeah, I've gone again. Look, I wanted an EGA machine so that I could prove it working, which is quite important. And that, of course, then I found out about the 350 line mode. And as Appy was saying, the EGA can do 64 colours don't explain why, but anyway, so that's something we've got to do. Nice to put that back of the queue a little bit, but so we'd like to fully support the EGA. It fully supports CGA. Everything I've put into it seems to work, but it'd be nice to support the full EGA. And I because I quite like. I mean, I was thinking of building a DOS computer, but, and a 286 is just nice because it is DOS. I'm not a DOS fan, but it's just nice to actually have one. So I'm looking forward to getting that, get a hard drive in it, and get it working. Whip out the old MFM and whatever. Maybe I might, because I think I've probably got an MFM one. Right, any plans for a higher res model? Not really. I mean, because if you did what I suggested and go on panellook.com, 1L, very hard to get. They do 1600 by 1200s, but you know, they're hard to get. So this is why, even if it's on that site, you have to look to make sure they're in production, at least a couple of thousand in stock somewhere. You know, that proves that they're in stock, but that don't mean nothing, because I found an OLED I thought fantastic. They had 2,000 in stock. No, they didn't. They had none. So it's an absolute nightmare getting them. So hence me, once the Kickstarter's done, I'll fly out to wherever, Asia, and I'll go visit some panel suppliers and then have a look through all of them and just pick a couple of nice panels to be options to this panel, because I still think this is a bloody good panel, and everyone who sees it likes it. Yeah, I'm even to the point I did a test. Remember the whole muddy comment? I turned the brightness up, fiddled with it, couldn't pretty much look the same as the one I thought looked really good compared to it. So actually, I think it could be just a tuning thing. Yeah, I mean, it's 250 nits, this panel, so it's not the brightest panel on the market because it's industrial, remember. And panels nowadays, everyone's about bloody specifications, right? And so, yeah, but Apple have got a 500 nit display. Yeah, whatever. You know, I think, you know, 250, okay, it's nice. I've watched lots of people, they say, well, 150 is enough. Yeah, and this is 250, and it's, you know, it's enough for me. It looks great, and no one's seen it complained it's too dark. Everyone thinks it's really nice. So, you know, but again, I'm going to look for, I have seen 350, 450 panels, and maybe high resolution. Yeah, let's go on camera, but it's the camera lies all the time. So it's always a bit tricky, you know, recording it. But yeah, it's bloody nice display. You have to see it in person. Anyone who sees it in person, except Neil sadly, but everyone who's seen it in person really likes it. But yeah, as I said, I kind of recognise what Neil was talking about, but I've played with the settings and tuned it, and because that one there, which is Philips, looks fantastic. As I said, it blooms more, but actually I played around with the settings on this and it was almost the same. Not quite, but almost the same. So I still love this panel. You know, I'd have no problem selling this, but it's, as soon as people talk about specifications, right? You know, they say, oh, it's not motorbikes. If you buy a sports bike, it's all about horsepower, right? How light it is. But there's so much more involved. It's like when you buy an enduro bike, how much horsepower has it got? How light is it? You know, all these kind of things. And yeah, you can get bogged down in specs. The reality is, try it, see what you think. And that's really difficult with products. So, can't just let you download it and try it, can I? So, hence going around to the shows. And I'm going to be, if anyone's got a new show, just let me know. The lag is lag, yeah. 17.8. I've been very public about this. It's 17.8. So basically 1/60th of a second, might be 62 of a second, but 17.8 milliseconds. I've got a proper tester. Yeah. Here we go. I've got one of these and I tested it. I had trouble getting one. It's an HDMI one. But I took it to a show, and I was showing the guys last time at Swag, and I've got people come up like, tell me if you notice the lag. No one can feel the lag because you press the button, it jumps. You know, so again, it's I don't want to be rude about people who do testing, because they have to do something to test it, and the view is subjective, obviously, and lag is a measurable thing, so I understand it. But having, you know, 17.8 milliseconds lag is imperceptible. I can't perceive it. And I spoke to OLL 2022. I spoke to some actual gamers, and they said, "No, we don't care. We just adjust." So you know, it's something it's good specifications to talk about, because I know CRTs are 0. There's no way you can beat that. OLEDs might theoretically, But once you start, anytime you put something into a computer to process it, fucking circuitry and everything, and then put it on a panel electronically, you're going to get lag. Having said that, my Philips one is just over 3-4 milliseconds. Is crazy slow. Christ, I don't know how that happened, unless I got it wrong. Yeah, no, I agree. I know my TV, right? My TV is 65 milliseconds, and you can't play on that. You can't. So I get it. I really get it. My point is, if you're sub 25, sub 30, it starts getting, and then you get under 20, then you really can't notice it. I mean, I'm sure some gamers will really notice it, and I understand that. But so that's why I'm being very clear: 17.8 milliseconds lag. But you take it all in together, don't you? Interestingly, I spent out on a panel. It's a TN panel. It's, as I joke, TN stands for shit, right? But it had a very low refresh rate. It was like 3 millisecond refresh rate, and I thought, oh, that'll knock tons off, because this panel's 14 millisecond refresh rate. So I thought, oh, that'll knock at least 10 milliseconds off. It came out the same, exactly the same. So that didn't help. But anyway, I'm going to go because I'm cooking. So I'm assuming there's no more questions. I will see you next week. If you do have any questions, you can email me anytime you like, or save some questions for next week. I will speak to you next week. Now, how am I stopping streaming from here? Now, let's do it from here. We'll end the stream now, shall we? Let's say goodbye, and then I'll press this button so it's literally goodbye. See you next time. Thanks a lot.